This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil prices settled higher on Friday and notched over 3.5% in weekly gains as positive economic data and signals from Fed policymakers that they could cut interest rates as early as September eased demand concerns, while fears of a widening Middle East conflict continue to raise supply risks. Brent crude futures settled 50 cents up, or 0.6%, at $79.66 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 65 cents, or 0.9%, to $76.84, both benchmarks. Brent gained more than 3.5% in the week, while WTI rose more than 4%.
Iran has sent small shipments of crude oil to new destinations such as Bangladesh and Oman, according to shipping sources and data, the latest sign of Tehran pushing to sustain output at close to its highest in 5 years. Oil sales are Iran's major revenue source, and the country has been looking for ways to sidestep U.S. sanctions on its crude exports that former President Donald Trump reimposed in 2018 over Tehran's nuclear program. Iran, which is exempt from output quotas set by the OPEC, is striving to maximize production and exports.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Global oil demand growth needs to accelerate in coming months, or the market will struggle to absorb an increase in oil supply that OPEC Plus is planning to make from October, according to data, analysts and industry sources. Oil demand growth in the first 7 months of the year from top consumers, the United States and China, had failed to meet some expectations even before renewed fears of a U.S. recession triggered a global stock and bond sell-off this week. If the economy slows further, oil demand growth will likely slow with it. That will mean OPEC Plus would either have to delay plans to pump more oil or accept lower prices for higher supply, analysts said.
U.S. energy firms this week added oil and natural gas rigs for the third time in 4 weeks, energy services firm Baker Hughes said in its closely followed report on Friday. The oil and gas rig count, an early indicator of future output, rose by 2 to 588 in the week to August 9. Despite this week's rig increase, Baker Hughes said the total count was still down 66 rigs, or 10% below this time last year. Baker Hughes said oil rigs rose by 3 to 485 this week, while gas rigs fell by 1 to 97. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Indian steelmakers want the government to soften proposed import restrictions on metallurgical coke, a key ingredient in steelmaking, saying the curbs will hit steel mills' capacity expansion. A letter from the Indian Steel Association, seen by Reuters on Friday, said, India, the world's second biggest producer of crude steel, in April proposed a country-specific import quota to cap annual imports of low-ash metallurgical coke, also known as met coke, at 2.85 million metric tons for 1 year. The aim is to protect the country's local producers, which have complained about rising imports. India's imports of low-ash metallurgical coke have surged more than 61% over the past 4 years.
Copper prices bounced on Friday after U.S. jobs data eased fears of a growth slowdown in the United States, while falling inventories in top consumer China reinforced positive sentiment. Benchmark copper on the London Metal Exchange was up 0.5% at $8,831 a metric ton as at 16:17 GMT. After hitting a 4-1/2-month low of $8,714 earlier this week on concern about the contagion effects of a potential recession in the United States. Americans filing new applications for unemployment benefits fell more than expected last week, data showed on Thursday, suggesting nervousness about the labor market was overblown.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Ratings of French soft wheat showed 48% of the crop in good or excellent condition by August 5. Down from 50% the previous week and the lowest since the poor harvest of 2016, Farm Office France Agri mayor said on Friday. Wheat harvesting was 88% complete, compared with 67% the previous week and the 5-year average of 91%. Producers and traders are expecting one of the smallest French wheat crops in decades after months of heavy rain hit planting and crop growth.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.